Why don't we,
Anybody else out there, John? We get started.
Nobody does.
all right, why don't we go ahead and get started? Does everybody have a copy of the paper passed out?
So far, we just handed out the contact list. We'll get to the finance stuff in a second. We'll have our guys hand that out to you. Welcome, everybody. My name's Sean Reese. I know a lot of you. I'm the operations manager for DuPage County Public Works. Really appreciate you guys coming out so we can present this to you. I have Nick Cottenmeyer. He's our Chief Administrative Officer, also Director of Public Works. Jim Jors is our Principal Water Operator for the water system. Dwayne Kozak, he runs the shop here. He's the manager for all of the maintenance of the systems, water and sewer. And then John Adams, he will be the project manager on this project, so he'll be running the contractor. So if you have any questions, I wanted to make sure you guys had all of our contact information. That's what I just handed out to you. Call anytime. We're available all the time, so you guys call us if you got any questions related to water, sewer, this project, please give us a call. So a couple things, you guys kind of know the area. There's a couple maps up here. We'll be available all night to talk to you specifics for your property. We have a full plan set up here. This was a project that I was involved with almost 15 years ago. We actually engineered this. We sent it out to bid. Numbers came back a little bit higher than what everybody had hoped. It's a hard area to bring water to. There's bigger lots, a lot of water main to not a lot of homes. So it just drives that cost up a little bit. But you guys are aware of that, but that's why the project didn't go 15 years ago. So what changed and what made us look at this again, it's always been an area that's kind of been on our hit list. We've wanted to get water out there and make it available to you guys. Senator Curran was able to secure a $400,000 grant. That kind of changed the game as far as making this project doable. So we moved forward. We presented to you guys probably 4 or 5 months ago some real high level budget numbers, and wanted to see if there was still an interest, and there was. There was quite a bit of interest, and it's something that we wanted to move forward with, actually getting the engineering and design done. The one thing, once we got into design, there were some challenges out there. There was wetlands delineation that needed to be addressed. There was a loop that we were hoping we could keep out of it. That's the loop that runs on the far north side there by the Willowbrook area. We were hoping to avoid running that loop, but we just couldn't do it when we modeled it for fire flow and water quality. It would have caused an issue. So those things did drive the cost up a little bit. We were about $100,000 higher than what we originally proposed to you guys. But we had baked in some contingency and some things. We were able to drop off some of the engineering, and our board actually this morning supported a financing option to you guys that I think will make it pretty palatable to do the project. So why don't we go ahead and hand this out, guys, to everybody, and I'll walk through this.
So you want, let's pull up the.
Go ahead and pull up the price sheet. So when we bid this out, we got a real good return on bids from the contractors. We actually received 10 bids. It's a pretty good turnout. All the bids were really tight. So what that tells me is a couple things. I think the specifications were done well. There wasn't a lot of room for confusion with the contractors. And actually, this bid was awarded to the low bidder. The second lowest bidder was like $3,000 or $4,000 above him. So that's how close these bids were. So the bid, I'll walk you guys through this financing sheet here. The bid came in at $731. So once the project was done, the engineer's estimate was of $760. So we're a little bit under what the engineer had estimated the project to come in at. Engineering design, we still have a little bit of resident engineering. We're going to do that in-house with John, so that helps drive the cost down. It's not a super complicated project. We have the skill set to manage that project ourselves, so we're not going to contract that out. So we're only at $30,000 for design engineering. So that brings the total project cost to $761,000. With Senator Curran's grant of $400,000, we need to figure out how to pay for the $361,000 amongst 29 homes. So that's where the cost breakdown, the sheet comes in per home on what we're anticipating the cost to be. One thing I will say about that is you guys will pay the exact cost that it takes to construct it. So we're going to continue to look for opportunities to save money out there. As we're running the water main, we may not have to go through things like sanitary sewers. We may not have as much trench backfill out there. We may not have as much asphalt and restoration repair. So we're constantly looking. That's the challenge put on John and all of us, is to try to keep that cost well below this. But I do think that it's going to be somewhere around there. This will be the worst that it is. It's not going to be higher than this, right? So two options for you guys to pay for this. And the first thing I'm gonna say is you don't have to connect. I wanna make that clear. This is not an SSA. There's no homeowner out there that's gonna be forced to connect. If for one reason or another, you guys don't wanna connect to it, you don't have to. But we wanted to provide a couple different options for those who do, that are interested in it. Payment option number one is pretty straightforward. It's a one-time payment. Once we're done with construction, we have to pass bacteria tests. We get an EPA operating permit, and we'll notify you guys that the water main is now available, right, to connect to. And that's $12,476. Another option is 4 years, 0% interest. The Public Works Department would finance that. There's no, it's not like a financing option. We have an agreement. It would be a lien on your property for the $12,476. We would incorporate that bi-monthly charge in your water bill to charge you guys for 4 years to recoup those costs and pay your fair share of it. We're going to offer that because we have to cut it off sooner or later. So construction schedule, we're going to offer that through June 1st of 2022. If you guys want to do that financing option, you have until then to decide and let us know. Otherwise, after that, June of 2023, if you choose to tie on, we need to start adding an interest rate to those connection fees. So that connection fee of $12,476 after June 1st of 2023 would go up 2% annually. So if you look on 10 years from now, it's going to be a little bit more than what it is today. Any questions so far? So the one thing in addition to that, so what this will get you is all the water main, all the hydrants, all the infrastructure through your property, complete restoration. Yards will be restored, driveways will be restored. We'll do all the sampling and testing. We're going to put a B-box at your property line, right? You guys will have a say-so on where you want that B-box to be put in. The thing you want to have an eye towards, and we'll help with that, is the shorter it is to where you connect into your home, the cheaper it is for you to run that private service line. So you're going to have to run a service line from that B-box, which is the road right away, basically, to your home. So a 100-foot service is going to be more money than a 50-foot service. So it behooves us to look at your house and kind of figure out the shortest route to get water into your home. But that's an additional fee, and those are shown on the bottom there. Monthly water bill, one thing I wanted to let you know, a lot of times people wonder what their monthly water bill will be. Typical home with 2 adults, 2 kids, uses about 12,000 gallons on average. There's a lot of variables there. If you water your lawn, you water a garden, it could be a little bit more, it could be less than that. But at our current water rates, we do have a rate increase January 1st of this year. I'm sorry, 2022. So it's going to go up slightly. This number of $138 includes that cost. So the last thing I wanted to do is give you guys a number and then hit you with a charge if we happen to have the water main out by then. So that's an average for a water bill, but that goes up and down with consumption. One other thing is wells always comes up. So the health department is, what do you do with your current well? You guys can keep that well for irrigation. In fact, I would encourage you, if you water your grass, if you have a garden or anything like that, you might as well keep it if it's a good working order. There is an application that you have to fill out with the county health department, basically to register that well, because they keep track of all the wells that aren't being used for drinking water, just to make sure they're in good working order is what it is. So there's an application process for that, but we don't require you to disconnect and abandon that well. We just ask that it's physically disconnected from our public water supply.
So I had a couple items. So I just want to, we've obviously gone through this process a number of times with different homeowners groups throughout the years. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understands exactly what the project will mean to them. So after the project's done, as Sean said, the mains will be in the road, the hydrants will be in the road, the services will be up to your property to a B-box. Doesn't make a difference which side of the street the main is on. The B-box will be either run under the street or the short to either side, so everybody will have the same opportunity for water. That cost of that project is $12,476 per home after the grant money received from the state. There's actually kind of 3 options. There's the option pay up front, as Sean talked about. There's the pay over 4 years, 0%. Or let's say in 8 years, you're going to wait until your well fails and come to us, there's no, and that's want to reiterate, there is no requirement for hookup. Do it now, do it later, whatever you would like. The county's financing the remainder of this project. Eventually, you know, I would assume at some point, every home is going to eventually go to Lake Michigan water. The time might not be now for a particular home. Everybody needs to realize that our project ends at their property line. Everything that is from the property line to the house is your private cost. So if you decide to hook in, those are your private costs at that point. And that's what's detailed down at the bottom of the page. That's not included in the cost of the project. That is a separate cost that you need to be aware of. And so people realize, you know, when they do, you know, a home equity loan or things like that to pay for it, sometimes they include that. So just to keep in mind, and then as Sean said, you have the monthly bill. So with the 0% interest for 4 years, our board this morning and a Public Works Committee agreed to that to help facilitate getting water to this area. And I know that we have the map that I don't think the people online have seen yet. And we will show, and this map is displayed here as well, but we'll show it to the people online. Wherever you have that.
Any questions so far as the financing?
Those are estimated or?
So no, the bottom one.
Question, wait, question for the people online was, are the bottom numbers on the sheet, are they estimated or are they actual?
Yeah, and the answer is their actual costs. So that the connection fee is a set rate. That's not variable. It doesn't change. The meter right now is the true cost. Average cost for service line, that's the only variable. That's $45 a foot is normally what we see.
And this is based on the same contract that was put in connection.
So that's a great question. The question was, can the contractor that's doing the main project put in the mains? And we do allow the contractor to do that. If homeowners want to do that, that's a separate agreement with them. But a lot of times what we see is homeowners will get together, 3, 4, 5 of them, and they'll approach a contractor, 3, 4 contractors, and get the best price. Putting in a service line after we have the main line is a fairly easy job. A lot of underground contractors can do it. Our recommendation for you guys, absolutely approach our main contractor for pricing, but definitely go to other contractors. And the more people you can group together, the cheaper it's going to be for you.
That's a great point, because I think the benefit to that is he's already mobilized. He has directional boring equipment out there for putting the services into the V-boxes. To go the additional 40, 50, 60 feet to your homes is being opportunistic and not a bad idea at all.
90% of the time, the contractor on site will beat any price you're going to find out there. We can't control the price that he offers for you guys, but shop it around, make sure you're getting a good price. But most of the time, that main contractor, because they're mobilized, will beat every other price you get.
That's something that, I mean, if the group wants it, I can actually ask him, give me a budget number that he's comfortable with. We've worked, Jay Cogden is the contractor, Victor Rardy is the president. We've worked with him on previous projects. They do a great job. So I can bring that up to him and ask him what he charges and give you guys that information.
If there are any questions for those zooming in,
I have a question.
and you know, either speaking into the microphone or give me a thumbs up and I will unmute you to ask the question.
And just so you, I mean, this project's going to go on for a while, and we're giving you a lot of information tonight. No one has to make a decision tonight. Take it home, think about it. If you guys have more questions, you have the contact list, call us. We'll answer any questions you have, meet with you again, whatever you want. This project will probably not start for another, I would say, 2 months probably.
Yep. I was into October is what we're shooting for. Where we just gave him the notice to proceed, so we're looking for a construction schedule from him. So we'll share that information once we get started.
And there's a question online.
There's a question. Steve, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, my question is the $12,000 for each homeowner to hook up, is the county sharing in any of that cost at all, or
All the way up on this one?
There it is. Yes.
can you hear me?
So Steve, we're not hearing your question here.
I thought she was letting us see you.
Can you hear me or no?
Any other questions out in the audience? Why, or when, like I said, a lot of information. I'm sure you guys are gonna have more questions once you think about it. Reach out to us. I mean, the nice thing, John's gonna be out there during the construction. You'll see anybody in a county vehicle, they're all aware of this project, ask them any questions.
So the $6,000 probably about ceiling does not apply for not having
If a homeowner, the question is, does a fixed well ceiling count for everybody? The answer is no. You have the choice as a homeowner. We've had, I would say the vast majority of homeowners we work with seal their well and they're done with it. But some homeowners keep their well for outside water. Our only requirement is you disconnect it entirely from the system, from your house, so we have no cross contamination. And you have to fill out the form for the health department. They'll inspect it, make sure. You can absolutely keep it if you want to.
The $1,000 is an estimate, depending upon the depth, because they fill it with that thing.
Only if you have your,
seal.
only if you sell.
Correct.
I mean, it's totally your choice.
The question from online was, is the county sharing any of the costs?
Is the county sharing any of the costs? So the answer is yes and no. We're guaranteeing, I mean, we're guaranteeing the price where it is. So if there are extras that go over, we will cover those. But we do have, with obviously about a quarter of the county population we serve, it's not an SSA, but every special extension project we do, those homeowners have to cover the cost of doing that. We cannot pass that cost off to our other users out there. So everybody has to pay for their own project. This one's a little bit unique. These are $400,000 in state money.
Was that Steve's question?
It was.
Yeah, Steve, we spoke a little bit about that prior to starting it. That, you know, the reason being that is we get we're revenue based. So our operation is ran off of our sewer and water charges. So if we were to contribute to this project, the other users currently would be paying and funding for your project. So that's why we just can't do that as a department. But you know, some of the smaller costs that we can do, we can manage the project in-house. It saves on engineering. Our equipment, obviously, we can, once we get on board with the contractor, things like utility locating, potholing, we have the equipment to do that. We do that with in-house staff to help keep the cost down. So that's kind of our contribution to the project.
There will be a fair amount of in-kind contributions from our staff, our equipment, our manpower. So it would substantially increase the cost of it if we did not bring to bear our resources on it. It's just, as far as a hard dollar amount, the answer is no.
If you do get started at the end of October, what's the end date?
Yeah, I think the actual construction of the water main, I think within 4 to 6 weeks, they should have the water main in the ground. It goes pretty quick. Restoration, depending upon when they get it done, it may be a temporary restoration going through winter and hit it in the spring, early spring. It's just the grass takes better. It's easier to do the roadways. Asphalt usually shuts down in November.
For those online, the question was, how long will the project take? And it was 4 to 6 weeks once we get started. And I think I didn't hear it, but typically restoration does happen in the spring because a lot of the trenches settle, and we want those to settle out before we go in and restore everything.
Yeah, so once the question is, when can the residents hook up to the water main? So once we're done, we have to pass pressure tests, we have to pass chlorination tests for disinfection, and then we submit that information to the EPA, and they give us an operating permit. That's the point that anybody can connect. You can go, we'll get ahead of the game. You can go through our permit process if you're interested before that. So we'll be permitted. Greg's the regulatory manager. He'll be doing all the permits for connections. We'll have all that ready to go. The day we get the operating permit, we can cut everybody loose on connecting to the water.
And my recommendation to people that are absolutely sure they want to connect and we want to connect into Lake Michigan water, as soon as you see us mobilized out there, starting work in the project, start talking to the contractor, start talking to the main contractor, get lined out, you know, the service line you're going to put in, talk to Greg, get the permit lined out, and then that way you're ready to go. I mean, ideally, if you guys strike a deal with the main contractor, if that's the cheapest price you get, and he knows that he's going to do 10 connections, he will be out there and they'll be made as soon as the, I mean, with his equipment, he'll get it done instantly once the EPA signs off on it. So that's one benefit of having that contractor as well.
So the homeowners have their own contractor. In the private cost list, the only one that would change possibly is the average service line cost.
So the question is, if homeowners have their own contractor, what would change down below? The connection fee and the meter charge are the same no matter what contractor you use. We have that's set by statute. Okay. What's going to definitely change is going to be your average service line cost, the cost per foot. That's going to be different contractor to contractor. That's what you're shopping around for to get. And then as far as the well sealing, that's a private decision whether you want your well sealed or not.
Another question. Steve also asked, will mailboxes be reinstalled?
Yeah, if the mailboxes are damaged, we'll reinstall them.
Yeah.
So our goal on all these projects is to restore it better than when we came in there. We always put a lot of money on the restoration, because inevitably once it's done and the main's under the ground, nobody cares about what the water main looks like. They want to make sure their driveway and the yard's looking good. So we actually make sure that that's done well. We'll come out and do things like water it. If it doesn't take real well, our staff will come back out. The Wayne will send guys out there. We'll reseed it. We'll fertilize it. We kind of baby it along until we establish that grassy bed. So we put a lot of effort into the restorations.
And we realize from the projects that we can do the best water main project in the world, and if our restoration is subpar, the entire subdivision is not happy with the project. We know that, and we will absolutely, we won't leave your subdivision until we have made it as good or better than when we came in.
So things like driveways, right? We don't do just the trench width. We go all the way up to the road right away. So we usually go back because the traction machine will damage it. They'll scratch it. So we just account for replacing the whole thing. If we end up doing less than that because they don't touch it, great, right? We save money. And things like culvert pipes, we anticipate we're going to replace culvert pipes. So
prior to construction starting, we will go through as part of our job and videotape the whole subdivision at all the work area, so that we have a before project video of everything. And you know, if there's ever like, hey, this damage was done, we've got that video and we can easily reference it.
Will the project impact the flooding we have in this area?
Will the project impact the flooding we have in the area? No. I mean, everything we're doing, we're not going to be changing the grades of ditches, the height of driveways. You know, obviously, if we encounter a crushed culvert, driveway culvert that we replace, we're going to replace it with a brand new culvert, but we're not going to make it worse, but we likely won't make it better either as part of this project.
So a couple points, I'll elaborate on that a little bit. There's a pretty robust erosion control plan in here. We're going to hold them to it because of the flooding issues that have been out there, the wetlands issues. So we'll hold them to that. As Nick mentioned, a lot of times the culverts being replaced actually help local drainage, at least to the river. But as far as the regionalized flooding that you guys have seen, I know you've seen it at your home out there, this project shouldn't impact that. In fact, we're trying to kind of stay away from that wetlands area and floodplain area.
How far up the road do they go with construction, and are they going under the street, or is the street getting ripped up? What's it look like at the property side of it? Obviously, it looks like on here, it's not on my side of the street, so what's that gonna look like? How much damage are they gonna do, and how far are they gonna, if culverts is necessary?
Yep.
If they don't, do they stay between the culvert and the street? And just repair that?
Yeah, so the question for the online folks is how far off the edge of the roadway are we? And what about damage to the property and culverts and things like that? So the answer to that is it varies through the project. When we design it, things like water mains, water has to stay away from sewer, has to stay away from storm sewer. So we have to maintain a 10-foot separation. If we don't, we have to case it or change the sewers to water main quality. So it changes throughout the whole thing. I've done almost every one of the Timberlakes areas, and inevitably the edge of the asphalt roadway cracks because they're backfilling, they're going over it with the inloaders. So the further I can get back off the edge of the roadway, the less damage we do to the road. But sometimes we can't. Sometimes, like there's some big oak trees out there that we looked at. We have a line item for pruning those if they get near those oak trees. But we actually veered the main and laid it away from those oak trees and went out into the roadway. So things like that dictate where we run it. If you're interested in this goes for any of you, where the main's going to be ran specifically in front of your house, we can look at what's proposed. But keep in mind, we do kind of value engineer things out in the field. And if I can avoid something once we get out in there for the field conditions, we make changes.
And so, you know, our goal, if at all possible, although sometimes we have no choice, is not to run the water main under the pavement. That's our goal, because if we ever have a water main break we have to fix, then we're ripping up the road at that point. So we're trying to stay out from underneath the road wherever possible. Any other questions, either in here or online?
Can I ask, when it runs from across the road to my house, how deep will that be?
So the question is, when it runs, if the main is on the other side of the road and you're on the far side of the road, how deep is that service line that comes in? Typically,
5 to 5.5.
yeah, 5 to 5.5 feet, get underneath the cross line. And then like I said before, Sean said, every single property has the same advantage of the water main. You have the B box right on your property line. So we will make either the cut under or bore it under, but we're underneath the frost line. Now, the one thing we didn't mention that I think I mentioned to somebody when they first came in, for whether you hook up to the water or don't hook up to the water, the one thing I'd recommend when we're said and done in this project is, I know you're gonna have hydrants throughout your subdivision. That has a distinct benefit for homeowners insurance. And we recommend that everybody, like I said, whether you hook in or not hook in, talk to your insurance agent, because a lot of times there's rate reductions out there for having a proximity to the hydrants. So take advantage of that as the homeowners throughout there.
The other thing I'll add to that is things like water softeners, home filtration. More than likely, it's a personal choice, but more than likely you don't need it. For Lake Michigan water, it's already pretty soft. I think if you're talking 4 or 5 grains per gallon, you guys are probably used to seeing in the upper 20s, low 30s, so it's probably pretty hard water. You probably have iron. More than likely, you won't need any filtration.
The vast majority of projects we've done where we brought Lake Michigan water in, the homeowners who had water softeners, paying for the rental water softener, the salt, they were able to discontinue that and save money that way. So that, like I said, personal preference, it's up to you, but most vast majority don't do water softeners on Lake Michigan.
Go back to the beginning and define for me what, say, 29 properties, is that 29 houses or 29 parcels?
So
that's
connections where we identified, and it's a great question. The question is, I think along the lines of the 29 properties we identified, is that parcels, houses, how is that computed? We've gone through and Sean and the team have figured out which homes already have access to or are connected to other water sources. They're not part of this project. So the only 29 that we've included are buildable lots within the inside that are not connected or do not have access to Lake Michigan water right now. And we have the map that shows which ones are here. And, you know, obviously if there's anybody who says, hey, I'm not in there, I want to be, we can talk to them, and then we can make them part of the project. And then now we have 30 we're dividing it by.
So the one thing I'll add to that is there's 29 homes that could potentially connect right now. There's vacant lots out there, right? So if somebody comes along and wants to build a home on one of those vacant lots, they're going to have to pay their fair share. It would change your number to this community. So we put them on what's called a hot list. And if that number changes, well, now you have 30 people. So you're dividing the total cost by 30. It drives your cost down. So whether you do the financing option, which is kind of an easier one because we just wouldn't have you pay as much, or it's a credit back to you, depending upon how many people connect. that make sense? Yeah, for how long? Yeah, I don't know, Greg, how often do we usually monitor that? It's a while.
We
We
have,
have on the hot list for 10, 15 years
Yeah.
now, so it just depends on kind of the whole project and how many people are actively connecting.
Property that has, already has the well. and property that has already connected. Correct?
I don't know about the sewer, but they're homes. Yep, they're homes that have a well. I think you guys are all sewer out there. I don't think there's any septics out there right now. Is there?
how many homes are on septic out there?
So what are the chances of the sewer?
Well, I will tell you, those on septic need to talk to us, because if we can figure out and wrap it in here, obviously the other people won't be paying for the sewer, but we have an underground contractor, and if there's proximity to a sewer and we can get you guys off a septic, we will definitely assist anybody. I mean, you guys have to pay for the cost, but we can help facilitate it with the contractor. So if anybody's interested to get off the septic, we are more than willing to help try to facilitate that.
We have sewer through the neighborhood. now,
Yeah,
So it's
it's
available.
available. And now is the time, if those on septic want to get off and do it, I would definitely give, the team here a call, and we can figure out how to get that done. Like I said, the entire group can't pay for that, but we can definitely, we have all the contracts, we have everything, we can help facilitate it without a doubt.
My neighbors don't want to get on the sewer. Me get on the sewer by myself.
We'd have to see where the main is. So it's gonna be case by case, so I think definitely you wanna stop by our offices, maybe at Woodridge, we'll sit down with you and see if there's a plan and idea how to do it.
I would think that we have it available to you. We have sanitary everywhere out there. So it's either across the street or it's on your side of the street. So it's available. So it would just be a connection fee to us. There's a permit and a connection fee, and then you run it and tap into the sewer line.
Now, with the septic field, you will have to collapse the septic field and abandon the septic field. You can't keep a septic field and sanitary sewer. But we can help you through that process. So if you're interested, then absolutely give us a call. If anybody else is, Greg's the person Greg over here too. There's another.
12,476 per property. Is that if everybody does it, and what if somebody doesn't want to do it?
Then we carry that.
We
cost.
carry it. We'll carry it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. The homeowners will not suffer if 5 people don't want to do it. I will tell you that the vast majority of times we've seen is, there will be a handful not wanting it. They like well water. They don't want to pay the money for it. We understand that. Where it usually flips over is when they sell the house. And the new owners usually say, hey, I want Lake Michigan water.
On my question, will the water main go under the creek on Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be bored underneath the creek.
Yeah, everybody heard that question. There's a specific detail. It's actually directional board encased underneath the creek. So at the creek crossing, we're going down from about 5.5, 6 feet. We're going down to almost 12 feet. Because what you worry about going under a creek bed is called frack out. So as a directional boring that, you don't want to blow out the bottom of the creek bed. So it's more expensive, but you case that water main, it protects it, and you go down deeper underneath the creek.
And everybody, if you have more questions, don't hesitate. I mean, call us, let us know, email us, find us out on the job site. We'll answer anything that you guys have.
Any other questions online, John?
None that I see yet.
Is there a question? Do you have a question back there? But if you guys
So we're
want,
available.
Yep.
The rest of the night, if you guys want to come up, look at this full plan set, if you want to look at your properties or anything like that, we can kind of talk about where it's laid out. So we're here as long as you guys need us. Thanks for coming, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.